Let's talk about some tips and tricks for goal setting, communication, and relationships as it pertains to responsibility. Starting off with communication and relationships, which normally would not be where I would start with an executing strength, but I think it's really, really important to manage boundaries and being able to set clear expectations when it comes to your responsibility strength, and therefore protecting and managing your energy, your time, your to-do list, etc. So let's dive in. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is you say you're going to do something, you do it. But when? When are you going to do it? That's normally the question that's missing from the mind of a high responsibility strength person when they're asked to do something. The response is typically just, yeah, I'll do that. But there's not often a lot of conversation around, yeah, I will do that at this particular time, or my schedule is kind of full right now. Can I do that later? So that's something I want you to think about, both in work and in life. And that is to ask questions to understand what others' expectations are of you, and also to get an understanding of what needs to be done and how that fits into your own schedule. So, for example, let's say you are visiting home, or maybe you still live at home, or you live at home for a short period of time, whatever. Maybe you're a teenager in this example, who knows? But your parents ask you to clean the bathroom and you say yes, but you don't ask by when. And then you plan to do it in like 3 days. And your parents are like, what is happening? Now, my original example for this was going to be my husband asked me to do that. And I say yes, but there's no timeline. I was trying to not include him in this, but this is a conversation that happens often, right? Like, will you do that? Yes, I will. End of conversation. The other person's expectation might be, yes, I will do that now. My expectation is, yes, I will get that done at some point. Kind of the flip side of that, that's kind of the do later approach. The flip side of that is that maybe someone at work asks you to do something for them, and your automatic assumption is that it needs to be done right this second. So you drop everything that you're doing to get it done, only to find out that they really didn't need it until like next month. These are two extreme examples of why it's important to learn to ask the question, yes, I can do that. When do you need that by? That's one part of that. When do you need that by? The next part of that is making sure you understand what they need at that time. What I have found a lot of lacking in communication when it comes to leaders I've worked with, or even direct reports I've worked with, is that they'll say, I want it by this time, but they're not clear about what they want at that time. Do you want a final product at that time? And if so, do you want to see that final product along the path? Or do you really just want the final product when it's done and you don't care how I do it, when I do it, what it looks like along the way, as long as it looks like this at the end? So that's an important question to ask. Like, when do you want it? What do you want it to look like? And this can go for all sorts. It can go for our bathroom scenario. It can go for the thing that someone asks you to do at work. It can go for a friend asking you for help with something in their life. Like, when do you need it by? And what does that look like? If you want to go deeper, it's like, okay, do you need check-in? Do you want to check in along the way? If it's something that needs to be done in 6 months, but you want to talk about it once a month, like, what do you want to see each month? Because if you're someone who's super scheduled and likes to kind of do things in milestones and chunks, that's going to be great. You want to make sure you're meeting expectations. If you're someone who likes to procrastinate, you're going to have to change your ways a little bit, and you're going to have to set milestones in a different way that allows you to work in the best way for you. So ask questions, get clarity, understand expectations. These are going to be really, really important things for you to allow you to say yes and meet others' expectations more effectively. You can't meet expectations that you don't know exist. Now, in terms of communication and relationships, when it comes to, your ultimate success and avoiding burnout, I'm going to encourage you to really learn to ask or to state this one simple phrase. Can I get back to you on that? This is something that all of my clients who have responsibility, we have talked about and we have practiced, because especially in a work environment, but also in a life environment, when someone says, hey, can you help me with something? It is likely that you are going to say yes, and you're going to say yes quickly. And this does not account for your current responsibilities, your whole to-do list, what's on your calendar for today, tomorrow, next week, whatever it is. So by practicing the phrase, can I get back to you on that? It's a way of creating a pause for yourself. It's a way of creating some space between you and the decision to take on whatever you're about to take on that isn't saying no. You do need to learn to say no, and that is something that you need to do. But what I found is that, especially with people with high responsibility, it is hard to say no right off the bat. So by practicing, can I get back to you on that? Or can I get back to you tomorrow? Or can I check my calendar? I'm going to check my calendar and let you know, like whatever the kind of phrase is that works best for you, stemming from, can I get back to you on that? It gives you an opportunity to think about it. You may know you're going to say yes, right? Like most of the time you probably are going to say yes, and that's fine. But by saying, cool, I'm going to let you know in like 2 hours if that's going to work. I just need to check my schedule. It just gives you that space where if you do need to say no, you can kind of prepare yourself. You can understand why you're saying no, et cetera, et cetera. But it also just allows you to like double check that you have the time, space, energy, focus to take on this additional thing. I have seen a lot of success for people in practicing this, especially if you're in a work environment where you can't really say no to a lot of things, like it's your job to like take these things on. Practicing some sort of phrase like this of like, okay, I need to figure out how that's going to fit into my schedule, or I need to figure out what I'm going to have to take off my plate in order to take that on. Again, that's basically a yes. It's just letting the other person know that like, I have a full plate and I'm going to have to take some things off of it in order to do this. Practice that. Tell me how it goes. Send me an email and let me know, because truly that pause can be really, 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 really powerful for you. Okay? Try it. Can I get back to you on that? Another thing to think about, especially with relationships, and we're not going to have time to go fully into this in these videos, but setting boundaries. Set boundaries with those in your life, specifically around your time and your personal needs. So one thing I would encourage you to do, and we talked a little bit about this in the life video, but people with responsibility tend to say yes to other people's requests, sometimes at the detriment of the things they need to do for themselves or their lives or whatever it is. How can you flip your responsibility on yourself? How can you flip it on yourself to make sure that you are psychologically taking responsibility for taking care of your own needs? So one of the ways that I do this for myself, and again, this works for me and my makeup of strengths, take it or leave it, but maybe it'll spark an idea for you. I found that I had a really hard time when I transitioned into entrepreneurship and I was my own boss and I didn't have anyone to be like, yes, I will do that for you. I had to do it to myself. I had to be like, yes, boss, I will do that. That I had a really hard time taking that psychological ownership of the tasks that needed to be done because I didn't feel like I was committing to do them to someone else. And that's what I was used to. So to-do lists just like didn't work for me. I would write a million things down on them and I would get nothing done. I'd get distracted. I'd go over here. I didn't feel responsible for completing the things on my to-do list. And so I worked with a strengths coach, and then kind of through my own exploration, I kind of came to this idea of, instead of a to-do list, I now have a today I will list. And it's going to sound really silly, but just the change in language to today I will, those 3 words in my brain are like, oh, I'm telling someone I'm going to do that. I'm committing to doing that thing. Therefore, I'm psychologically committing, taking psychological responsibility for the things I've put on my to-do list. And Now I kind of write today I will, and then have a checklist. But if I'm really having trouble committing and getting things done, I will literally write every to-do item. Today I will blank. Today I will blank. Today I will blank. One thing it helps me do is not overcommit, because once I get to like thing 4, I'm like, today I will not be doing any more than that. So I have to stop. Like, is that good enough? Okay. It has to be, because that's all I can do. It also, again, it just like triggers that thing in my mind that's like, you said you were going to do it. You said you were going to do it. You said you were going to do it. So you better do it. And that has worked for me. Now, you and your individual strengths, I would want to talk to you and understand your motivations, to understand a way to do this for yourself. But if that sounds like something that might work for you, try it out. That's kind of in the setting boundaries, but it's also in the goal setting standpoint. Like, setting goals for you, if you're setting them for yourself and no one handed them down to you, can be kind of hard, because you might just say a bunch of stuff and then be like, man, I don't really feel that committed to doing that. Now, if you have like achiever or competition also in your top 10, maybe that's not the case for you. But if you don't, if like me, responsibility is your only executing strength in your top 10, then you have to learn to work with it. And so when you're goal setting, you really want to have a why. You maybe want to have accountability partners, people who you tell you are going to do something, like, hey, friend, hey, boss, hey, colleague, I'm going to do this. You don't need to check in on me. I just need to tell you that I'm doing it. I need you to know that I'm doing it. So that's an approach to your goal setting that you can add in to whatever goal setting methods you are utilizing, is like, who can help you, but in a way of like, who can you commit to that you're going to do this thing? And if it's you, how do you create a commitment process or accountability process that feels motivating to your responsibility? If you want to dive into that more, schedule a strength session with me. It would be so fun to dive into your responsibility with you, what that looks like, how to maximize it. We spend 2 hours going through your top 10 strengths, focusing mostly on your top 5, but then talking about goals and execution and barriers that you're facing, et cetera, et cetera. So if you've enjoyed learning about your other strengths or responsibility today and you want to learn more or dive deeper, just click the button at the bottom of this email and book your strengths session. You get 10% off because you're part of the strength series. And with that, that is all I have for responsibility. I will see you back here for our next strength.